Hi, this is Dina with Pretty Productive. We're a mother-daughter Etsy shop that sells all things planner and budget related. Today I'm going to be setting up my 2020, which is so hard to say right now, my 2020 yearly budget. So this time last year, I had a lot more debt than I do now, and I had set up the budget as a payoff plan. So it's kind of nice to be able to kind of be a little bit more proactive this year and look more at savings and investing and things like that. So let's get started. So the way I set mine up, the majority of my bills are fixed, but I do have variables, which are like my HOA, the electric bill, the water bill, the gas bill, and then I have subscriptions that are pretty much the same all the time. So what I've been doing in the past is separating them by fixed expenses and then by lifestyle, because I feel like lifestyle always has some wiggle room, meaning that you could, not go out to dinner, I could not buy clothes, things like that. Well, I guess you could have to buy some. And then sinking funds and debt snowball. So let's start with the yearly budget overview, and then we'll kind of, I'll show you how I broke it down by category. So what I did was I took all of my expenses from 2019, multiplied it by 12 months of the year, and then came up with a monthly total. So my mortgage, I know is going to be the same as $3,300. Where you saw some fluctuation was in my electric. So my average is $258, and I'll show you where that number came from. Water, $137. Most of these are the same every month. And then there's ones that change based on the time of year. I live in Arizona, so my high bill was just under $600 for electricity, and then went as low as $94. So there's a big range within that number. And then for subscriptions, they're of course the same, and of course if money was tight or I wanted to be a little bit more gazelle, I could definitely take those out. This area right here are my cash envelopes, so I kept my numbers about the same, but I do feel like, I'm going over a little bit more in groceries because we're eating home more, but I'm still using my going out money, so I don't really know if I want to take it from there. Household, there's some changes coming here, and then recreation, entertainment, things like that. I kind of switch around, like sometimes I use that money, sometimes I don't. And I just noticed one thing I need to add on here is clothing. I did not budget for clothing. So on my fixed expenses, what I did was I went through all of my bills for the year and I put in what I paid by month. And this is where, when you look at electricity, I went from $193 in January, $358 in June, $337 in July, $570 in August, $512 in September, and then it starts going back down again, $235, $179, and $157. So what I'll do this year, when the January bill comes in, I'll just erase this number and plug in my new number. I feel like this is going to save me a lot of time, because when I'm setting up my budget, I go onto the app and I look at what I spent last year, and then I kind of refigure my budget based on that, where now it's just in one place. So when I'm laying out my budget, I can just refer back to this sheet. Water, kind of the same thing. It averaged to $133, so it's pretty consistent. You can see in the summertime, because we do have a pool, we do tend to use more water because of cleaning the pool. But other than that, it stays pretty consistent. Our natural gas, because our oven, our water heater, our washer and dryer are natural gas. It stays pretty consistent, but you can definitely tell in the wintertime it goes up, and the summertime it comes way down, and then it starts to go back up again in the wintertime. And then things like Netflix, internet, telephone, those all stay the same. And then for lifestyle, these are my cash envelopes that I use: groceries, eating out, household, recreation, allowance, giving, entertainment, and personal care. These are my subscription services that I have: Amazon Prime, which I'm paying in January; Ali Edwards, which is a scrapbooking, like a story kit; Pest Control really could be, I've been using it as a sinking fund bill, and I'll show you kind of what I'm doing with that, because For some reason, I hate taking the money out of my sinking funds, which is the whole reason why it's there, which is stupid. So I try to wiggle my budget around so I don't have to take the money out of the bank, and that's really not the purpose of sinking funds. So I need to either wrap my head around the fact that yes, that's the reason why it's there and take it out, or I need to just leave it in the account so that it's there when I need it instead of moving it into my savings and then moving it back into my checking. I haven't decided yet. And then Elements, which is a massage service that I use. This is way off. Let me just bring this up here. And then this one should be Audible. I don't know why I don't have that, but I'll fill that in. And that's $16 a month, and I love that. So I would like to keep that, obviously. And then a couple things that are going to be different this year. In my sinking funds, I've always had vacation, medical copays. So my husband's retiring in the end of this month, end of December. So I picked up the medical, so that will be coming out of my check. So my check goes down. We're not really sure what his check is going to be. We've been budgeting all year long on what we think he's going to make in retirement, but that could go up or down. So I think when I set my January budget, I did take it down even more. So I just figured that would be the bare bones. So what my check will be minus the benefits plus what his check will be at a percentage of what he was making. So we need to figure it out. We don't know yet. But so I just took everything down. So I did, for the first time in a long time, we will have a deductible. So we will have a family deductible of $1,400. So we do have a medical savings account. And then I want to have the $1,400 just in this medical copay account because I maybe go to the doctors 3 times a year. So I'm not going to really help with making that deductible. But between my daughter and my husband, they're the ones that are going to have to make that deductible. So we may end up not even using the insurance if we don't make the deductible. So, you know, you never know. Of course, you definitely want to have it there, but I don't want my daughter to hesitate to go if she doesn't have the money right now to pay, and so that she feels comfortable going. So I'm just going to have the money there, and that way I know it's there and we'll have it there. Gifts and Christmas, I did use that for holiday. I haven't finalized that sinking fund, so I'm not sure where I'm starting, but I do think I need to build it up more than I did this year. I felt like I was putting money in and taking money out constantly because I wasn't being proactive about it. So, you know, I looked at birthdays, but I really need to look at birthdays, all my nieces and nephews' kids' birthdays, you know, wedding gifts, baby gifts. So there was a lot of things that came out of that I hadn't planned for at the beginning of the year. Fitness. So my gym that was $99 a year closed. So they closed in November. So what I think I'm going to do, my company offers a program where you can join Lifetime for, I think it's $109. They pay $75 of it. So I would pay basically $25. Well, they pay everything but $25. As long as I go 4 times a week, I'm sorry, 4 times a month, they'll pay their part and I only pay $25 and it's done as a payroll deduction. So I think that's really gonna be my best deal because I'm never gonna find a gym as inexpensive as mine was. Part of the year I like to just be outside walking. We do have some equipment here, but I really like in the summertime to go inside and work out inside. So it's not built yet. It's gonna open, I think, in February. So I've got a little bit of time to decide on that, but I think that's gonna be my best deal. Dental I've had as a sinking fund, and I'm gonna keep that sinking fund. Though I think with this one, because we did change our dental insurance when we changed our medical, I don't know yet what the costs are going to be differently. So it looked like it was pretty comparable, but I'll need to see if our cleanings are more or if x-rays are different, things like that. So I will have to probably build this up even more so. And then my debt snowball, Barclay Apple has $1,700 on it. Chase which I think is under 3,000. I did some damage with that one. And then Capital One I pay off every month. Some of my fixed expenses get billed to this. So I've just been keeping kind of a note, and I think this time I'm gonna make it a little bit more formal. So I'm really gonna write down what I pay each month on that, just so that I kind of have an idea when I'm budgeting. So I know there's $680 that goes on just between my phone bills, things like that, that get billed to that automatically. Then I do bill some of my groceries on that when I do HelloFresh. I also keep some money in my account for things like Uber Eats or Instacart, things like that. So I'm finding that I'm not being as good about keeping track of those because they go on to the Capital One, and then I feel like I still have it in my budget, but I don't. So I do need to figure out a way to do that, or just take Capital One right out of the equation and just let everything run through my checking account. I always find it's a little bit easier just to make one payment than having to keep up on my check register, but if I'm going over, then I need to eliminate that one. So that's where that one stands. And then emergency fund is kind of the baby step that I will be in. And again, if you've watched my videos for a while, you know that we did this super backwards. So our retirements are fully funded. We do have our 6-month emergency fund in a totally separate bank. And then we have, we cash flowed the college education. We've cash flowed one wedding. We have one more wedding to pay for. And then we have built up a fund for home repair. So we're getting ready to do our floors, our countertops. Like, we're just getting ready to kind of refresh the house. It's be 9 years old. So that's all in a separate fund already put away. So I know that if you were truly following the baby steps, you would have your $1,000 emergency fund. You'd pay off all debt in baby step number 2. Baby step 3 is a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Baby step 4 is investing 15% of your income. And then 4, 5, and 6 are kind of go together. So it's children's education, retirement, and then the last step is pay off the house. So we are in the process of paying down the house. We should have that paid off in the next, I think it's going to be 5 years, but it seems like it's so long to go still, but we'll see. Anyway, so, but I would feel better if I had my own kind of emergency fund that is attached to my checking account. So if, well, I was gonna say if one of the cars break down, but that's really something that my husband pays for out of his allowance. But I would just feel better to have my own emergency fund, and that way if I build it up and it's in excess of what we already have in the other accounts, then it's just, again, it's a little bit more peace of mind. I know it would probably be better as investment, but we really are already maxing out our retirement. So my husband and I are both very fortunate. We both have pensions with our companies as well as 401ks. He worked for the city, so they have something called deferred comp. So, he's retiring very secure, and he is probably in the next couple of weeks going to be going back to work. I thought he would take some time off, but it looks like he is going to go back to work right away. So that means that his pension can just be banked, and then he'll have a very nice income coming back in. So we'll see. I like to plan for the worst case scenario, and then if it turns out better, great. If not, well, then we cross that bridge when it comes to it. So that is where I am right now on my budget. So when I average everything out, it comes to just fixed expensive cash envelopes and subscriptions is $6,706 is my, I know is gonna come out of my account. Now this does not include my sinking funds or any debt payoff. So I've been averaging $2,000 a month for debt payoff. And then on sinking funds, it really depends on, I definitely paid off, put more in the sinking funds as I got to the end of the year because I was catching up on gifts, which I'm not planning to do this year, planning to get ahead of it this year. And then for medical, I was all aboard with medical this year. I had physical therapy, which was $30 or a session, $90 a week, and it felt like forever. So, you know, I kind of was drawing from that account and putting it back and things like that. So I really want to have a better handle on averaging, you know, if I took this year as just kind of a baseline, averaging what that number should be. And then with bills, I mean, I've been putting money in to the bills, but I really just feel like I'm going to leave it in my account and just earmark it for that. So I'm not putting it in and taking it out, because those come out quarterly, but it seems to be one month is one and then the next month is the next. So I felt like I was constantly putting in and taking it out. So that is where it goes right now. As far as my income, what I think I took it down almost 1,000 from where we were. So that still gives me about, I think it was 8,800 a month is what I wrote down, what I estimated it as the low. And so from 88 to 67, which is 2,100, will be debt and sinking funds. So I may pull back a little bit on debt because they're both on an interest-free card, just make sure they're paid off. And then I can put the balance into sinking funds, or I may just take what I have in sinking funds, pay off everything, and then start over in my sinking fund. So I'm kind of walking it through both ways to see which way makes me feel better. I think that's the important part, is how do you feel more secure? For me, budgeting for what his retirement was going to be, because he was in a program where he had to retire in 5 years. He ended up retiring 2 months early. He was supposed to retire in February, and he is ending up retiring at the end of December. So I knew when he retired that I would be picking up the benefits. So I was kind of planning on that my check was going to come down that much, and then trying to estimate what his check was going to be with a percentage of his income as pension, but having the benefits that have always come out of his check back into his check. And I didn't plan on him going back to work right away. So that was a different variable that kind of just threw all of my planning into disarray. But on the end of the day, I feel like that makes me feel more secure, is knowing that, you know, even if we do take a pretty substantial cut in pay because of the retirement and the benefits and things like that, I still felt like I had control of my money, and I still felt like we were going to be fine. Our lifestyle was not going to change that much. So I know depending on what stage of life you're in, it could be you're planning on college. I mean, that was a huge thing. I had 2 in college at the same time, which is quite pricey. Planning for a wedding. So we told my daughter, we gave my daughter and son-in-law a budget. They were great about staying within budget. I think we ended up at the last minute going over a little bit because we added something to the wedding reception. But at the end of the day, they were very responsible, and we were like, this is how much money we have. We told them how long it was going to take us to save it, and you know, the day after the wedding, everything was paid off. So it was a great feeling. They started their life off without debt, and we didn't have a bill hanging over our head. The second part is, I feel like, you know, for college, my daughters both went to community college in the beginning, and then they went to university. They knew if they failed a class, if they withdrew, you know, stopped going, they had to pay us back for the class. And they weren't allowed to take out any student loans. So, you know, they both worked full-time when they went to school. We did pay for their education, their books, things like that. We did not ask them to pay that, but they paid for everything else. They paid for their gas, their food, their cars, everything like that. So we felt like, you know, they were both really responsible, and that worked well for us. But, you know, I hear horror stories of, you know, parents taking out Parent Plus loans, things like that. And we were from the get-go, very, very honest with our kids that we would not incur debt, nor would we want them to incur debt, so that they were graduating and still having to live at home because they couldn't afford to move out, which is kind of what happens anymore. So we still have one more wedding to pay for. We don't know when that's going to be, but so we're already starting to put money away for that, just so that, again, we can have a budget, stick within the budget, and so we're not, you know, having bills left over at the end. So that is my yearly budget setup for 2020. I just kind of created a kit for me to use. So this is a kit that is coming into the shop as a monthly kit, and it's probably one of my favorite ones I have ever done. So the thick washi, the thin washi, the budget strips, and then of course the this is not the budget, the headers, but you know which ones they are, the ones that we always do. So for this kit, I also made these. So this is the budget headers for the yearly setup. And we don't put dates or months on anything that we do because we really want you to have the flexibility to do that. I mean, if you really wanted 2020 on here, we can always customize. And then these are the little script stickers that I did for here. And then for here. So it did take me a couple different sheets to do that. And again, we have not put this in the shop. I don't really know. I mean, if it's something you guys want, then we'll definitely look at it. But on this one, it only took me one because there's doubles of the things that I needed two of. And then on this one, it took me a couple. And again, these are what I have, but we could definitely switch them around if there's other things that you would want to see on yours. And then these are the headers that have the months at the top, and then the totals by month, and then debt snowball, the different funds, and then actually I have debt snowball on here, so you would have one for each side, and then the total. So some of these I used, some of them I didn't. I've set it up a couple different ways, and I think this is kind of what I came out with that made the most sense to me. But again, you know, everyone's different. And then what I did was I made these really thin ones because I was trying to make lines, and as I was making lines, they were going all over the board. So I ended up just making a thin washi strip that went down so that I could keep them in columns. But again, you don't need to do that. You could just take a pencil and a ruler. But that is my 2020 budget. So I'm hoping we all are ready to go for 2020, and we're gonna make it a great year. So please let us know in the comments if you have any questions. If you have not subscribed, please do so and hit the bell so that you're notified of every video that we do. The next couple of days, I'll be filming the January setup, and you'll see the new budget with the estimates of what we think our income's going to be. So it's a little bit, I'm used to having very set income, so it's going to be a little bit rough for me for the first couple of weeks, but you know, we'll get it down. Thank you so much for watching.